I'm just so tempted to do a choosy one. Back to back.
I mean, if you insist.
Hi, so I'm Rosie from Cobot, and today I'm going to be interviewing you for a case study on your co-working space, Workish. So before we begin, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure thing. I'm Taylor, and I do everything from marketing, communications, community at Workish. Mm-hmm. And then obviously there's also a ton of operational pieces that come into running a co-working space. I do that along with Lenny.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Lenny, and we share a lot of the operational stuff here. And lately I've gotten around to also making more physical things for the space. And just, I guess, enjoying working on this project.
Yeah. And before we begin to the questions, would you like to provide a little bit of background information on Workish, on how it came to be?
Maybe I can take this one. So basically it came kind of out of nowhere, I think you could say. Basically there used to be, in this building, there used to be another co-working space, Beta House. They opened this as a second location in 2019, and then, as we all know, the pandemic happened, and then I think that made it a bit of a challenging project. And basically in 2021, a little bit suddenly, like it was announced that they would leave the space. And then for us, having rented some basement space, we've basically spent quite a bit of time setting this up as an event space, atelier, studio. And then, we had fallen in love with the building. We had fallen in love with the garden, the space itself. And then the thought was just, how can we come up with something to just stay in the building without, with access to upstairs, a community, kitchen, bathrooms. And then, kind of co-working space in a much smaller shape. Seemed like a good idea. So we spent a bunch of nights in Excel and just frantically trying to figure out how this would work as a business. And then we made the decision, quite happy now. It was quite a, thrilling time at the time.
Thrilling.
And this is kind of how it came about.
But I'm really happy to see that the community is thriving and you're definitely going on a good path.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
So what would you say are the core values and mission of your co-working space?
I would say these came together pretty organically for us. We started the co-working space and only months later did we start having conversations about what we were. And I think that the two core tenets for us have always been creativity and community. That comes both from kind of our background of working in creative fields, but also it's happened really naturally with how people use the space, the people that are members of our space. I mean, our maker space down in the basement. It's kind of unfolded that we have these as our core values, but then the community kind of feeds into that, and it's worked out quite organically to stay that way.
Yeah, so the synergy goes hand in hand pretty much.
Exactly, yeah.
And according to my research, you've been Cobot since the founding year in 2021. Was there ever a period before Cobot? And if not, what led you to choosing Cobot?
I can speak to that one too. There was no time before Cobot. I actually had experience working with the platform, so like Lenny mentioned, kind of the startup phase was really fast, and it was an easy choice for us to go with a software that we knew and something that was designed for co-working specifically. And so, just right from the beginning, we got started with Cobot because we knew that, with running membership payments, with managing subscriptions, with booking meeting rooms, we were going to need something that worked well for our business.
Okay. And since Workish fosters such a strong sense of community, and a lot of people might not know, but we actually have our office here, which we really love. Would you say there's any other members that you're working with directly, or any collaborative things that came out of Workish that you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think generally we always try to collaborate with the community. So anything that we do, any project that comes about, we try to like bring the community in. And sometimes it happens very naturally, like a bunch of members organize their meetups. So that's the easiest, most straightforward way to collaborate. But then also we have, when it comes to like design elements, or we even, like lately we've collaborated with one of our textile designer members to design the curtains and some like windowsill cushions. And so this is like nice little details that is nice to have a story for. And then also the most recent project is even like we call it like an exhibition wall. We call it Things of Workish. And basically the idea is that our members, the ones that make things maybe more on a regular basis and not just as one-offs, that they could then exhibit them there and sell them through our community.
I think it's really nice that you celebrated like that. Would you say it's one of the things that you are really proud as a co-working space, or is there anything that you like to say is your biggest accomplishment so far?
Well, I would say our biggest accomplishment is definitely the fact that it just feels alive and there's a good sense of community. I think that was also maybe the biggest, I'll say, worry, but in a way, you start a place, you have a big space, and it only works when there's people who enjoy being there. And so I think there was a bit of a let's call it worry, and I think that worked out quite well. People seem to like it, so we're quite pleased with that. So I think in a nutshell, the community definitely is.
And I also have to agree with that, because like right now it's 3 floors and everything looks so full of life and there's people in every space and it really feels alive. And since there's like these 3 floors that I am talking about, are there any specific differences between them, or like different type of people going to different spaces?
Yeah. So we've got the 3 co-working floors, and then also where we're sitting right now, which is kind of a basement space. Just start at the bottom.
Really beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, this is kind of more like our creative hackery space. We've got hackathons, we've got people 3D printing, woodworking. Like, it's people that have creative projects that they want to physically bring into existence. The ground floor is like the Flexish co-working, and that's the more creative and community hub. So we've got some kind of like fun objects. It's very casual, a bunch of different seating options. And that's where a lot of our freelancers, designers, kind of day-to-day members work. And then the upper 2 floors are a bit more like professional, quiet. Of course, they still have some level of their own personality. And that's just kind of more where our startup teams or people who run their own businesses would work, that kind of have heads down. And I think that's also where some of our night owls work. We've got a lot of people that like to work the late shift on the upper floors.
Yeah, and I think this also happens quite naturally because the ground floor is where people would just pop in. So it's definitely the most lively area, and also the one where we have the stage. So in the evenings that can become a meetup point. We have a bit of music going in the background, so people feel like it's not awkward if they have a quick chat in between. And often people like to work upstairs, but then come downstairs for an afternoon to like feel a little bit more of the community, and then like steal away and like dig into their work.
See the corgi. I saw a corgi yesterday running around.
Yeah, our neighbor's corgi. But yeah, we are a dog-friendly space, so that's definitely part of the atmosphere.
Love that. And in terms of managing these 3 different levels and the basement, how do you think Cobot has been beneficial to your operations?
I would say generally Cobot has been a huge asset to us. It takes a lot of the administration and recurring tasks and automates them. So people are able to sign themselves up. They're able to change their membership dates. They're able to add upgrades. They're able to book meeting rooms, and all of this can happen without us really having to do much.
I think probably the biggest The biggest one on the day-to-day is just the resource management as well. Of course, there's then all the invoices and everything. So I think it really just allows us to focus on more of the, special community type things, on like the physical stuff, and takes away a lot of the friction that's just otherwise would take up all our time. And so the resource management, we can allow for externals to book our resources, and then also we're planning to introduce soon to use it also for the lab as a little bit separate entity, and because we have so many tools here that we also want to make bookable for the members. So for these things it's great.
Okay. That also aligns with our mission, which is to take things off of your plate so you can focus on your community. So that's really awesome. And would you is there any specific feature that you would say is your favorite feature right now with Koba?
I would say actually, besides the core features, the one we've been benefiting from most is the ability to do external bookings. Yeah. So, I mean, we are space as a service, and that means that on evenings and weekends, maybe our spaces are not being used while people are out. So having external bookings has made it possible for people to use our space for events or meetups. We have a consultation room where therapists and workshop groups can happen. So it's kind of enabled us to really make more flexible use of space that would have otherwise been sitting empty, which is helpful for our business, but also it kind of helps our mission of using the space, bringing life to the neighborhood, and giving people access to space.
So I've noticed a strong presence of makers in the community here. Would you say FabLab is one of the reasons driving it? And of course there's so many services that you're providing here. How would you say it's happening, the makers community is thriving here?
I would say that because of the fact that we have a strong creative industry background, for me it's the filmmaking, for Taylor it's marketing and copywriting, so I think that has kind of kick-started the whole thing, or at least also we've created a space that we feel like we want to be part of. And so I think that's how it started. And then, of course, now we're at the point where we feel like, okay, so how can we double down on this idea? How can we take what we are good at and take what what makes us special and just have more of that? And so I think this is kind of how naturally goes in the direction of maker mindset. And then the FabLab is the incarnation of this. Of course it's a space with tools where people make stuff, so I think that's why that is not really a essential thing for everyone who's working upstairs, maybe mostly on their computers, but it's just nice to know that there is a place where you could even go and just do physical things as well.
I was just going to add to that. I think, as Lenny said, it's not necessarily the focus of people in the community, but we have been creating pathways so people can get into the lab and learn how to use tools and have machine access that they wouldn't normally have, just with beginners workshops. And so I think that also has kind of created a nice flow between the two communities.
I'm also really interested going on some of your initiatives, Show and Tell and making a co-working space. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
So the Show and Tell itself, we started as a regular event. It happens once a month down here in the lab specifically. And the idea is that people from the community, but also externals, they can come and show what they're working on as projects. And so this is just fun to participate in and fun to see what people come up with. Anything from more the crafty things to prototypes for the futuristic gadgets to instruments. A lot of music tech is happening here where people work on their synthesizers or guitar pedals, and definitely also a bunch of crafty stuff and new techniques that people can come up with, or even AI projects we've had been presented here. So that's just basically a stage. We give a stage to anyone who's making stuff in here, and so that's quite fun. And then the making a co-working space also kind of naturally happened because I have a bit of a background in filmmaking, and I do miss this creative outlet a little bit. And then the idea was to, whenever we do something for the space, to make it better, ideally make it better with this creativity in mind. Yeah. And then I basically started filming myself, vertical format, purely for social media, and to make short videos that just show the progress of what we're doing here. Often it's just little improvements, like a new sign or something that shows the meeting rooms booked. So tiny things that make the space better and hopefully entertain people and keep them up to date.
Yeah, for me too. I came across it on LinkedIn and I was like, oh, I would love to be a part of that, so that's why I was just wondering.
Very cool. Thank you.
And now going back to the Cobot question, since you've been with us for a while now, are there any features you'd love to see added in the future to help with their operations?
I think we have the same answer for this one. We would love to have promo codes. I think that's been a feature that we would have used every day since we got started, both from being able to run marketing campaigns to be able to offer a sign-up discount or allowing people to refer friends. And so this is a feature I think we would make really great use of if we had access.
Is there any advice you'd like to share to other co-working spaces considering Cobot?
I mean, I would say just definitely go for it. We have no regrets. And it was, as mentioned before, it was an amazing help from day one. And takes away all of the labor-intensive, tedious parts of our job. And so it's being continuously developed with new stuff, new features, making it easier, making it better. So yeah, I mean, it sounds a bit biased, but definitely no regrets and highly recommended.
Thank you so much.
I think the other thing I would say is, obviously because you're in the space, we have access, but I've found generally, compared to other software companies, Cobot's very responsive. So anytime we have a question or don't understand a new feature, we can get a response in the same day, which is really nice to feel like, that you're working for us and helping us run our business more effectively.
I can definitely vouch for our support team too. I think you're on their mind 24/7.
Yeah.
And lastly, if there is anything about Workish you'd like to share, anything you've planned in the future, maybe that we can stay tuned for, or just anything in general.
Lenny's always building cool stuff. We've got this really amazing phone booth project in the works right now. So from my perspective, just to watch our Instagram and see some of the stuff that he's making is always quite fun.
To summarize, I think we have way too many projects in the pipeline, so it's more about selecting. But I think generally we just want to, hopefully we can just make it even better and make it just this place where people from creative people from the neighborhood can come and just realize everything that they want to do. That's a bit of a bold ambition, but I think just to work towards that and come up with project after project that really is for that and not just shiny and towards the outside, but it really helps. And I think that's kind of what we want to do.
I think you're on a great path, and I wish you all the best. And thank you so much for the interview. That's all for today.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, also we forgot to mention,
we also have a KSK discount, so anyone who's actively a member of the Kunstsozialkasse can get a discount on co-working or access to the Maker Lab.
So make sure to do a trial day.